My entitled family mocked my frugal lifestyle, but now they are begging for my help after their business failed. I'm 34, a guy who's always tried to keep things simple. I don't chase trends, don't buy designer anything, and don't live in a house that's bigger than I need. I don't see the point. Growing up, my family was always chasing money. When they weren't spending it on something new, they were talking about what they'd buy next. I wasn't raised poor, but every cent went out the door as fast as it came in. New cars, vacations they couldn't afford, clothes they'd wear once. My mom especially was the worst. She was all about image, like that was her job. My mom is the type of person who thinks she's above others just because she can buy something. You know the type. Her motto's basically, if you've got it, flaunt it, and if you don't have it, you better figure out a way to get it. She's in her 50s, always chasing the next thing that makes her feel better than her friends. She had my dad jumping through hoops to fund whatever obsession she had that month, and he'd do it, no questions. Then there's my younger sister, Lily. Lily watched my mom all her life and picked up everything. In her 20s, she was already deep into the whole high life idea. Fancy clothes, luxury vacations, the whole 9 yards. To her, not having the latest phone or a designer bag was like admitting defeat. And my younger brother's no different. He's glued to whatever trend makes him look important. But me? I took the opposite route. After college, I started working, living on as little as possible, and saving the rest. I remember once my mom called me cheap right to my face. She looked around my small apartment, the one-bedroom place I'd made my home, and asked, "When are you going to stop living like a poor college kid?" She'd wrinkle her nose, say things like, "You can afford better. Why are you living like this?" My siblings would laugh, and any time I suggested saving, they'd start in with, "Oh, here comes Mr. Budget," or "Hey, maybe he'll teach us to live on rice and beans." I'd roll my eyes, but it grated on me. Then, a couple of years ago, my family decided they were going to open a high-end boutique. Lily's idea. She'd been binge-watching some reality show about boutique owners who wore designer everything and threw glitter around like confetti. In her mind, that was the life. My mom jumped in with both feet, acting like they were going to be the next big name in town. And my dad went along, probably because he didn't have the guts to say no to her. They went all in, pooled their money, even convinced my dad to take part of his retirement funds to invest in it. And, of course, they expected me to jump in too. My mom actually had the nerve to say, "Family supports each other," like it was some kind of duty. She said I'd get a return on my investment, and that it was guaranteed to be a hit. They pitched it like it was the opportunity of a lifetime, but I wasn't buying it. I'd seen Lily's business plan, if you could call a few scribbled notes a plan. They had no experience, no idea about running a business, just this big dream of fame and money. When I told them I wasn't going to invest, they took it personally. My mom called me selfish and even threw in the classic, "After all we've done for you." My dad said I was disappointing them, and Lily lost it completely. She said I was being small-minded and that I'd regret not getting in on the ground floor. She even called me boring and said I'd miss out once they started raking it in. So, I just wished them luck and walked away. I didn't try to argue because I knew it was useless. They were convinced they were going to prove me wrong, so I let them. I stayed out of it and went on with my life, watching them from the sidelines. For a while, they seemed to be doing all right, at least on the surface. They posted pictures on social media, showing off their new business, wearing designer clothes, holding champagne glasses. My mom even told me I should come by sometime to see what success looks like. I ignored it. I mean, good for them, but I wasn't interested. And every now and then, they'd throw in little digs about my boring life. At family dinners, my mom would say things like, "Not everyone wants to live like a miser," or Lily would tell me I needed to loosen up and live a little. Then, one day, they decided they were going to use my apartment for a soft launch party. Didn't ask. Just called me up, told me they'd invited people over, and would be using my place for the event. They even expected me to rearrange my furniture, make it look stylish. When I told them no, they flipped out. My mom called me selfish again. And Lily went on about how I wasn't supporting family. Apparently, because I wasn't paying for their boutique, I owed them this. I put my foot down, said they couldn't use my place, and they stormed off furious. Things like that kept happening. Another time, my dad took my car without asking because they needed another vehicle to haul merchandise. Didn't even leave me a note. When I finally got it back, there was a dent in the bumper, and he just shrugged it off, saying, "It's just a car. Don't be so uptight." They refused to pay for repairs, and when I pressed them on it, my mom said, "You should be glad to help your family out." And Lily, she'd call me, texting nonstop for loans to cover expenses. She'd send these vague messages like, "Hey, can you help me out? You're good for it, right?" And if I didn't respond fast enough, she'd call and lay on the guilt. "The whole family is counting on you. Don't be such a penny pincher." She'd even say it'd be on me if the boutique didn't work out because I refused to support them. I was at the end of my rope with them. I kept saying no, but each time it just made things worse. They'd guilt-trip me, accuse me of not caring about family. It was always the same. Family should be there for each other. But it was never them being there for me. It was always me being there for them. Then, a few months ago, everything came crashing down. The boutique started bleeding money. Turns out Lily's business plan didn't include a realistic budget for rent, utilities, or marketing. They'd spent so much on designer decor, fancy counters, and imported lighting that they barely had any money left for inventory. And they'd blown their whole social media launch budget on a couple of influencers who didn't even bother to show up. Customers weren't exactly lining up either. They'd set up in some upscale part of town, assuming people would be thrilled to pay premium prices for clothes that, honestly, you could find cheaper at any chain store. And while they tried to pretend business was booming online, the truth was obvious. They had no clue what they were doing. It was bad. Then came the phone call. My mom, she never calls unless she wants. Something was suddenly acting all nice. She said, "We need to talk. It's important. No drama, just this overly polite, almost desperate tone I'd never heard from her before." So I agreed out of curiosity more than anything. When I got to their place, they were all there. My mom, dad, Lily, and my brother. They looked rough. No designer clothes, no fancy drinks, just a lot of anxious looks. My mom started talking first, going on about family support and how much we've always done for each other. She finally got to the point. They wanted me to loan them a big chunk of money to keep the boutique afloat. "Just enough to get us through this rough patch," she said, like it was a minor hiccup. I told them no, straight up. I didn't dance around it, didn't pretend I needed to think about it. Just a flat no. My mom's face dropped, like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. She gave me this look like I'd just slapped her. Lily didn't take it so well either. She jumped in, practically yelling, saying I was abandoning them when they needed me. She even threw out that family is supposed to support each other line, like that was going to work. I just looked at them and said, "Family is a two-way street. I'm not your backup plan because you didn't plan at all." That didn't sit well. My dad tried to calm things down, but Lily went off, saying I was a selfish jerk who was hoarding money while they struggled. She threw in a few low blows, too, saying I don't understand real life because I never take risks. I laughed, but not in the way she expected. I told her, I did take a risk. I risked saying no to you guys and living my life on my own terms. I didn't run around spending every penny like it'd never run out. At that point, my mom started crying, saying they'd lose everything if I didn't help. She said my dad would have to sell his car, and they might lose their house. She laid it on thick, practically begging, and I could see her playing the same game she always did, making me the villain if I didn't cave. But I was done playing along. I got up and told them, "I'm not giving you a dime. I warned you from the start, but you ignored me, called me cheap, made fun of me for saving. Now you're here, asking for my help like I owe you something. I don't." Lily tried to follow me out, still yelling about how family sticks together and how I'd regret this. But I kept walking. I wasn't going to let them drag me down because they refused to take responsibility. For a while, they tried everything to get to me. My mom sent me these guilt-tripping messages, saying things like, "You'll understand when you're older," or, "It's a shame money's more important to you than family." My dad tried calling, leaving these long voicemails about family unity and how I was letting everyone down. Even my brother sent a few texts, saying I'd changed and wasn't the brother he remembered. It got old real fast. I ignored them, blocked a few numbers, and focused on my own life. Then one day, I get a message from Lily, asking if she could borrow my apartment. Apparently, they'd had to downsize, and she couldn't stand living in a place like this. She thought she'd just crash at my place whenever she wanted. She didn't even ask if I was okay with it, just assumed I'd say yes. I told her flat out, "No, my apartment isn't a hotel for you to use whenever you feel like it." That's when she really lost it. She called me, screaming into the phone about how I was kicking her when she was down, and that she couldn't believe I was actually this heartless. She said I'd ruined her life by not supporting the boutique from the start, and that everything that happened was partly my fault. I hung up. There was nothing else to say. After that, they went quiet for a while. I didn't hear from them, and honestly, it was a relief. But then, out of nowhere, my dad calls me again, sounding defeated. He says he's sorry for everything, that he wished he'd listened to me, and that he was just trying to keep the family happy. I almost felt bad for him because he sounded like a broken man, realizing too late that he'd been chasing a fantasy. But then he asked if I could help them, just a little, by covering a few bills until they got back on their feet. I told him no. I told him no again. Firmly this time, but without anger. I could tell he didn't expect me to change my answer, but he sighed, saying, "I thought you might say that. Just know you'll regret turning your back on family." Then he hung up. It stung, more than I'd like to admit. But I wasn't about to let guilt trip me into caving. I'd spent years building my life the way I wanted. No handouts, no debts I couldn't pay off, and no favors that weren't earned. I'd done the work to stay stable while they were out spending everything they had and more. I wasn't responsible for their choices, and I wasn't about to become their safety net. After that, the messages stopped coming. They didn't invite me to family gatherings, and birthdays passed without a call. It hurt, but it also felt freeing. I didn't have to pretend anymore or deal with the guilt trips. My boundaries were clear, and for once they seemed to respect them. Or maybe they'd just given up on me being the bailout they'd hoped for. Months passed, and I kept hearing from mutual friends how my family was struggling. The boutique eventually shut down, my parents sold off their house, and Lily moved in with a friend who could tolerate her lifestyle. Part of me felt sorry for them, but mostly, I felt relief. I realized I couldn't spend my life fixing everyone else's messes. In the end, I didn't just shut the door on their requests for money. I shut the door on a lifetime of guilt and obligation I didn't ask for. And it's probably the best decision I've ever made.